Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Before the Wheel podcast. My guest today is Ajay Sharma, the only guy I know who can paint, who can make tattoos, and who can sketch. Probably the only artist I know in my own life. Hey, Ajay, how are you doing, buddy?
Hello, Aman. How are you?
I'm
Good to
good.
be here with you again.
Yeah, same here. So we were talking about a few things you were doing earlier. So let's start with how you're doing in this pandemic, being an artist, how you're managing, because many people were giving me this input that not all the businesses are doing good because some businesses require people to go out and work with other people physically, and your business is one of those business. You have to go out and do painting, you have to meet people to make tattoos and other stuff. So first of all, how's your art going on? How's your art business going on? And as a hobby, how it is going on?
Okay. Thank you for asking this question because, as you also know, that this is really a very unpredictable business. Like you don't know from where it can come, from the where the business can come. So definitely, the pandemic was a hit for a lot of people. For a lot of people, they lost job, they lost opportunities. What they were doing, there was no because they had to go physically to work. And a lot of companies they were hiring all these people who had to work there. And now when they were not able to come, there was no job. So the same thing happened with the tattoos also, and tattoo industry got hit with the same principle. But again, it's the mindset of an artist which makes that artist a poor artist or a rich artist. So what happened with me was I started teaching online,
Yeah.
and because I knew that online is the thing which is the future for everyone. And those people who are in the online business, you saw the pandemic was a boom for them. If you see the Zoom made maybe 300 million more than what they were doing before the pandemic. So a
Right.
lot of things were online, they were booming in this pandemic. So it made a common sense for me that instead of focusing on a traditional thinking that only when a customer comes to your place, then only you'll get the business. If you see all those big businesses, they have online portfolio, a very strong online portfolio. So that's what I also did. Like I switched on to the digital form of the art.
Right.
I started, yeah.
And because of this lockdown, many people now are open to do classes online, especially for art and other stuff. And
Mm,
I think this is one of the greatest, benefit of our technology that now because folks have so much time and
mm,
so much bandwidth available that they can opt for these courses. I
mm,
know few people within my vicinity that their kids are going for classes. Either they are learning dance, they are learning music, or learning art, because this is the right time to do those things. Normally,
mm.
even parents don't get even time to think that way, that okay, my kid can basically learn these things now. And because of this pandemic, people are utilizing this time in these ways too.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. Like I said, not everyone got hit badly. A lot of people they were living, they were happy. In fact, that because of they didn't have to travel, they didn't have to go anywhere, and because of this, they had a lot of time in their hand, which they could spend with their family and with their kids.
Right.
Now, a lot of people who have the kids at their home, they wanted to do something productive or something creative also
Right.
because they were so much into their classes, the offline classes before in school and in other places, that they felt stuck in one place. So
Right.
for them, having these kind of online sessions was the only thing where they could learn something different. So yeah, that's how I came up with this idea of online teaching of art. Earlier, it was like I never did this before.
Yeah.
I never had the chance to teach online before. It was mostly people and kids they were coming to studio for learning. Or likewise, everywhere it was the same. Only no one could thought of like there will be a big business on online teaching also.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
So we were talking earlier about this, that how you were using art to teach kids some complex subjects. I remember a long time back you were talking about writing a book which explains
Mhm.
complex topics using art, using graphics, using pictures. And
Mhm.
I mean, and then you gave this good example that why you see uh, the signboards on the road made out of
Mhm.
pictures but less text, because mind can process pictures faster than text, a lot faster than text. And that's why how using art we can teach kids lots of complex subjects in a better way and in a faster way. So
Mhm.
right now you are writing that book, or is the book is completed?
So the book was a brainchild of mine because I started learning, like I was doing artwork since childhood. So what happened was, I in terms of learning, I used to learn a lot of visual things. Like I used to draw a lot and I used to design a lot, and based on this I was able to create learning material for me which I could remember for the longer term, or quickly I could remember those things.
Right.
So I remember in my college time, I used to, instead of writing long text, filling the pages for two, 5, 6, 7, 8 pages, I used to draw the art. And the teacher was so, like, they didn't know how to parameterize it based on the artistic skills.
They were pissed
But I had to
off. They
explain.
were like they were scolding you.
No, they were amazed. Like they never saw cartoon characters, and they had to evaluate the cartoon characters as an exam.
Right.
So in a way they got amazed also, and also they saw something different from the regular thing. From that I came up the concept of learning through visuals, because there are different levels of learning. People learn by listening, people learn by speaking out loud, they recite it out loud. Some people they learn from,
Reading.
or some kids they learn by reading, yeah. Some they learn by seeing the video, or seeing the video directly on the YouTube or some different places. Like this, these are different ways of learning. So my way of teaching was more of the visual, like where I used a lot of cartoons, where I used a lot of characters, diagrams, to explain the things very creatively. And with this they were able to remember the things for a faster period, for a longer period, and more faster than the conventional way of learning.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's talk more about this because this is very fascinating. I know when we were working together in our first company, you used to take notes using visuals, like you said, and you used to take the notes by sketching down,
Mhm.
some concept like one person is doing something, and then so that you basically used to make a story of the lecture, right,
Yeah.
or class. So when we joined the company, we were having lots of classes about different technologies and different concepts, and we all were writing big notes, and you were just making some small pictures. One guy is doing that and all. So now at this point, have you tried using the same mode of learning with other kids who are now coming to your place or doing online classes with you?
Mhm. See, again, when I do all these kind of creative stuff, I explain how I have done things and what all things work for me. So I explain them that these are the things which you can use to learn faster, and which you can use to, like, take your notes creatively. And I started teaching mind maps, creative mind maps to the kids.
Right.
And with this, like, they can use it in their geography, they can use it in their history, they can use it in like different subjects, complex subject like science, physics. So the main idea is how to take notes, the main idea is how to think creatively. Rest you can replicate anything almost. Even this conversation which we are doing, it can be graphically presented.
Right.
So anything which, like, anything can be presented in that way then. So it's more of the learning part, like how to think creatively in terms of that. And once you know how to think creatively, once you teach these things to the kids how to think creatively, they they even started doing more better than me. Like how I was doing, they had more idea, they had more visions, because you never know from where what can come.
Right. So can you give us one example, like some topic or some subject which you or maybe kids are learning using visuals,
Mhm.
so we can understand more
So
about it?
I give you one small example of how I started learning
Yeah.
technology, and
Yeah.
now you see a lot of white hat junior also teaching coding to the kids. So I started learning coding when I came out of the, like, came in college, and when I came out of the college, then I started implementing that coding. So how I used to learn was, if I'm learning a Java is one technology that we have studied. So I'll make Java as a character. And this Java will have different parts, like it implements inheritance, it implements polymorphism.
I think we lost you there, Ajay. Ajay, there was a Network issue. I
I
think
missed.
the moment you say polymorphism, we lost you.
Okay, sure. Technology which I was reading or which I was learning, I created a character of that main topic or that main particular book. So with this, you will be or I will be able to learn easily or fastly that this is one character which is telling the things and how it is. And using this character as the main focus, I started learning different concepts of what it was all about. So that's the same thing which I started teaching to the kids, that whenever you have to learn, create a center character of that particular thing which you are learning, and from that center character you create small flow diagrams, and from these flow diagrams you create the main story of it. So instead of writing, because we don't need a lot of words when we write our exam or when we learn. Suppose if you read a book, like how you wrote one book, Fix Your Day, I read it. So if I read the entire book, I'll not remember each and every word that you have explained in that book. I'll
Right.
remember some forms, I'll remember some headings, I'll remember some text, or the summary of that book I'll remember. So instead of mugging up everything and creating a scenario for you where you have to do all that mug up of the entire subject, you learn certain topics and create that in form of visuals. This visual will be more longer period in your memory than that entire chapter or that entire book. So I had followed this approach, like, because I was doing art already from childhood, so I followed this approach of least resistant path for me.
Right.
Like, this can be used to create a beautiful design, and this design I'll remember for maybe a longer period of time as compared to if I read it. For some people might remember this by
Right.
reading, so but it's just my way of visual learning.
Right. How do you come to know about this form of learning? Because this is not something which we can learn in school or colleges. So is something you found out like by reading some book online, or someone told you to, apply this kind of learning for your own purposes?
I it doing from childhood. I didn't read any book, like, because there was no internet at that point of time to tell. There's something called mind maps or something called it. So I remember doing it on my own instead of writing in form of long paragraphs. I used to create the designs, like I used to create the flow diagrams. So instead of writing the entire, I'll just make a circle, and inside that circle I'll write the name of that particular topic, and I'll make these arrow diagrams and narrow lines. And later on, when I got to know about different forms of learning, then I got to know that there is something called mind maps. So that kind of, I sync both the knowledge, and you can see a lot of material on the mind maps these days on Google, on the internet.
Right.
So what I did was I used my artistic skills and use this mind maps to learn the things fast. So the creativity can come from anywhere. Like, from for me, it was drawing was already there. Then I had to just learn how to implement it in form of learning my academics.
Right. So you're saying ki you, because you used to draw a lot, and when you used to go to classes, you
Mhm.
continued that habit of drawing, and somehow you come to know, okay, this is like cool way to learn because it's faster and it's very efficient.
Mhm. And also on top of this, there's a lot of time when people say, no, we don't draw, or we have never drawn sketches, or we don't know how to draw, and then how we can learn this thing. So I tell them, instead of creating a character, you create a very easy flow diagram for you. So you
Right.
don't have to actually create all these cartoons, all these things, which the idea is to learn visually. Visual learning can be as simple as, like, if you can think of a tree, you know how to make a tree. You don't have to be an artist to create a tree. If I tell you a word book, you know how to draw a book. So instead of writing book all the time, you can just draw the book to show yourself. So like this, you create a lot of visuals for the words, and then use these visuals to learn what you want to learn.
Right, right. And this is amazing because I have seen you doing this for a long time, and now you're writing a book on it, and now you're using those same principle with your students and with people who are coming to you. So this is a really fascinating topic. Uh, I got to know about this through a different mean. There was a seminar which I attended about how we can learn fast. It was a free webinar and all, and so they were basically telling the ways our brain basically cannot retain things for a longer duration. And the reason is that because it's too much data for us, and you need something specific to make sure that you can keep it in your mind for a long time. And because I think picture is something which our brain is easily able to remember, right? If we see a text or a sentence, we might forget after a week or so. But if we see a picture, that picture basically leaves a lasting impression, and somehow our brain is able to connect those connections and able to retain that knowledge, not the exact picture maybe, but the logic behind this. Do you agree,
Mhm.
because our brain is able to make connections faster and basically in a more efficient way, that's why pictures last in our brain longer than normal text?
Okay. This is a good question because this is from the eternity. We are exploring our mind, we are exploring our brain, how we can use the full potential of our brain to do the things. So
Right.
again, the topic again comes back to the same point: how we can use our mind or our brain to learn things faster or to do things something which we are always trying to do as a scientist also.
Right.
And what I imagined, like this is my imagination. I have not read about it. This is purely fictional. So as we know that there are a lot of synapses in our brain, the neural connections.
Right.
The neurons, they have synapses from which they transfer the data in form of impulses. So think of, because there will be always a gap between neurons.
Right.
Okay. And again, we know that there is something called a right brain and something called left brain. That was something which scientists came with the idea that there is a logical part of us and a creative part of us.
Correct.
Now they have again uh, demystified this theory that okay, this is not something which is correct. Now it is like our brain uses the entire potential. It doesn't use 10% or 2% or 5% at all. So this is again a myth which they debunked.
Really,
So
I'm seeing lots of pictures in our Instagram that okay, we are only using 1% of the brain, so why don't we use more brain? So you're saying ki that theory is basically false?
so it's debunked. It was never a correct theory at the first place. It's just a theory. Those who believe in it, they'll
Right.
feel it is correct. So it's about at what level of consciousness you are vibrating at. If at that level you know that this is working for you, then you will say, okay, my brain is working only 2%. But in reality, it's always working. You never know how much
Yeah.
percentage it is working or not. So the idea of this, of having a right brain and left brain, is again debunked, that our brain is not 1% working or 2% working or 10% working.
Yeah.
So when you see that our brain is fully functioning all the time, it has the connections between the left brain and the right brain. There's no concept of left and right now. It's all the concept of a singularity or a single brain. So when
Right.
you see that, when you have these neural connections in your mind, in your brain, and with this you get different feelings, different emotions. Some part of the brain have different emotions, like if you know, there are different areas in our brain which behaves differently.
Right.
And when all these information combine together, it creates a bigger output. So in the same way, if you learn something visually, and when you hear something, or you have a nice aroma in front of you when you're learning, or when you have a nice atmosphere in front of you, the kind of learning which you'll have will be deeper than what you'll have in a chaotic environment,
Right.
because there's too many signal, too many message information coming to your brain, which it has to process a lot.
Right.
So the same concept of having a visual memory is when you learn things in a very simplest and a very easy way, and when you use different parts of your brain. It's not just the visual. It's also when you have a nice desk setup in front of you, when you have a nice lighting in front of you, and when you combine all these things, it gives you a holistic learning approach.
Right.
So it's not just one thing. It's about different things, how you combine everything together. But again, when you have to learn something creatively, I follow these techniques for myself, and that's how I started developing things for teaching art, for teaching technology in a very creative way, or creating books in a very creative way. So that's the approach which I followed.
Right. Right. Are you aware of anyone else, or any sort of school or courses, or maybe anyone around you, or maybe not in India, who are basically using this sort of learning for kids, or maybe even for themselves? Because if you are thinking about this now, obviously at some point of time many other people must have realized it, right? And maybe some people are
Mhm.
also using it. Are you aware of some other people, or some schools or colleges using this approach for learning?
Because I teach a lot of kids now, when I ask them, like, are you learning something like this in your school? Because of this, I'm aware that the schools are also having some mind maps related things. But again, in school, there'll be a lot of people, a lot of kids who have different type of learning
Right.
way, the way of learning. So they follow a they follow a holistic approach,
Yeah.
so which they have developed. Like I don't know because I've never been to any school from really long, so I don't know how they are teaching these days. But again, I can talk about my experience which I have used for my learning. And if anyone is there who wants to learn in this way, they can learn, be it a school, or be it a college, or be it a technical institute. But if you talk about schools doing these kind of activities, I think they are doing because a lot of people are researching on this, and a lot of people know that this is something which is very powerful to do and powerful to learn, and they are implementing in there. I don't know who is implementing, but yes, there will be definitely.
Yeah, but maybe not that abstract way of learning, but maybe some variant of this learning, which might include say 10% of visualization and rest of. Because I remember when I was leaving my school, the kids like the students in the smaller sections, summer classes like class seventh, class sixth, they started giving them audiovisual sessions. So they used to show them some videos about some topics of science or about social studies and all, which was quite amazing because I think it started in form of animation. So for example, there is
Yeah.
a topic of history. So now instead of teaching them how this principle works or how this theory works, they used to show them animation of the same theory. So I think it started in this way everywhere because I still know because my cousins are there who are telling me that they have one class only for one class for each subject once in a week where they only show videos about it. So I think the videos are basically being used in schools more than the visuals, the text visuals or the drawings and all.
Yeah. And as you see, like how we are becoming aware of more and more things, we try to implement those things in our life, and we try to make that as a standard for us. So that's why you will see after so many years, we started having a education revolution in India. Like now the government is trying to change the structure
Right.
how it is currently. So again, if you see the future, if you see from my perspective as an artist, the future will be like when, as we are doing this session, like there'll be a lot of digital sessions which kids can take from anywhere, or which any person can take from anywhere, and they'll have the freedom to choose what they want to learn and what they want to do, instead of something which they like something which they are feeding into them without knowing.
Right.
So if you see the same art form, like art teaching, which I developed, it's like I started teaching artwork which I knew, like the forms which I knew. So those kids who were interested, those people who were interested, they started joining in these sessions. And now, because I'm expert in one, I'm not expert in all the forms, but I know a lot of other artists who are expert in their own domain, in their own area. So now I provided them an option that, okay, there is one more person who teaches like this, and there are other people also, other artists also, who teach like this. So now with this approach, they have this flexibility to learn whatever they want to learn from wherever they want to learn and whenever they want to learn.
Right.
So this is one good thing which came after the in the pandemic, in the digital revolution, I can say. And in form of teaching also, it was something which will be the future. If you see, like we don't have to really rely on a school, a physical school,
Right.
for teaching. And even though we will miss the physical contact, we do miss all these physical learning when we go to a school. But if you see a lot of things which we learn, sometime it is irrelevant, which we don't need to learn.
Right.
Uh, so I can say about these few more, but
Yeah.
if we have more questions, we can take more questions.
Yeah. Let's move to art being a profession. Uh, in India, especially, I find that because I got to know you and now you are doing well, but the time taken to reach this level was long time, right? And when I see people coming to you, especially other artists who wants to basically get into art for earning money, right? It's very easy to basically paint in your room and just be happy with that. And I think most of the people, this is the only thing they can do. There is no other option. But people who really want to go a long way. People who really want to take art as a profession, there is a lot of gap between the demand and supply. I'm sure
Mhm.
that you must have also realized that when you were, struggling in the initial years, that how hard it is for an artist basically to get into this industry, uh,
Mhm.
establish yourself as a brand, and start earning money from it. And it took you a lot of time to do that, right? What are the challenges you feel artist faces in India, especially artists like you who paint, who draw sketches, who do tattoos, because it's still in some part of India, or maybe in some part of sections of media, it is slightly looked down because this is not your comes under your top tier jobs, like it's not an engineering job, it is not a doctor job. And because there is not that respect for this profession, somehow it is difficult for someone like us who just after school can say, yes, I'm going to be artist. Because I don't think my parents would have been very happy if I would have told them that after 12th class that, hey, I'm going to be a tattoo maker, or I'm going to be just a painter.
Mhm.
Right? Do you think there is some sort of a cultural shift is needed in the people's mind to accept artist as a serious profession? Of course, because I know you, I know how hard you work, I know a lot of people like you, they work very hard. But a general population doesn't feel that way. They think it is something when people do when they fail at everything else, and now this is the only option for them. They don't think in a way that, okay, no, maybe this person wanted to do this thing by choice, and he
Mhm.
is just following his passion.
Okay. So this question is, I guess a lot of people will be able to relate. A lot of people have been through the same thing when they wanted to do something, but again, because of the society, because of the family, or because of a lot of n number of factors, you will not be able to do because maybe they think that this is not the right choice, or this is not something
Right.
which you can do. So I give you my example in form of a small story. Like when I started, when I came out of my school, like I was already doing good in art. I was already an artist from childhood, so I was doing a lot of designs, a lot of things. But at that time, it was more of to facilitate my academics, to learn for myself, or to learn for the things, and then I can appear for my exam, and then I can get good marks in my exams.
Right.
So the art was used to learn for myself first. At this point of time, I didn't have anything, any liability or anything to learn, anything to earn from outside. Everything was provided by my parents.
Right.
So main decision makers were the parents, and from what they have seen in their life is that if you have something which is stable, which is secure, you will be happy. So this is their vision of a secure and a happy life. And because they were already in a job, so they knew that job is something which gives you a regular source of income. Okay.
Right.
And that's how I completed my 10th grade, my 12th grade, and I came to college. So I had the options to choose which college to choose, or which area to choose. Now, as an artist, I could choose the art, or I could have chosen the computer science, which will give me the stable job, right? So, and if you know why we get paid when we solve something.
Right.
It's is the basic principle. I will pay you when you'll give me a solution to something, right? So in the same way, when we think only these jobs like doctor or engineer, these are the jobs which solve
A
something. And
problem.
because,
Yeah.
yeah, which solves a problem, and people pay for it. If I develop an app, you will pay for it because it is solving one issue, it is solving a problem, or it will make your life easy. So art is always seen in the same way. Like it is not a necessity for the moment for people. It is more like a luxury for people. Like if I don't have a nice statue, if I don't have a nice painting in my room, it is not a necessity for the moment. But if I have enough money, if I have enough things, if I am well settled, then I can buy the painting and I can have this. So you are always paid when you solve something, or when you try to create some nice experience for people.
Right.
Okay. And when I came out of the school, I had this option to choose what I wanted to do. So I chose engineering at that point of time because I didn't know how to earn from it.
Right.
But that happened because I didn't know what to do at that point of time. And in India, we know first we get an engineering degree and then we choose what we want to do,
Exactly.
and then we do what we want to do.
That's a prerequisite to do anything. First engineering, and then you can pick whatever you want to do.
Yes. So I completed my engineering, and when I had this option to join a company, my company was giving me one year of extension, 1 year of delay for joining date. And at that point of time, I had the options to join one more company, or I could do something from my art.
Right.
So I learned how to do the tattoo at that point, at that time. Like I bought a kit for myself and I started doing tattooing in Himachal. So my mom said, like, why don't you join one more company? I went there. I went for the interview. This company was paying me 7,000 per month,
Okay.
and that is normal. Like everywhere they pay the same thing. But I said, see, mom, this is something which I'm already doing. And I told my dad, see, this is one kit which I bought, and I have one tattoo to do for my friend, which is paying me 7,000 in 2 days. So why do I choose something which I have to stay for 1 month
Yeah.
and gives me 7,000? So you can compare the same
Yeah.
same thing.
Right.
But now if you see, this 7,000 which a company is paying is a recurring business, is a recurring income for me. Like if I work for 12 months, if I would have worked for 12 months, I would have get 12 multiplied by 7,000 money in my account. But in art, it is unpredictable. Like you don't know when the next tattoo will come, or you don't know when the next client will come. So this uncertainty is something which people don't want to take risk,
Yeah.
and don't want to do these things, these uncertain things. So they don't know how to start a business or start something related to art or start something related. So what I did was I followed what I wanted to do. I started doing tattoos in my entire
Free time.
Himachal.
Yeah.
Yeah, in free time, I used to travel and I used to tattoo, and that developed a business for me, from where I started earning the same amount of money which I was about to earn from my company. So one thing that we have to learn or understand is we get paid for solving things, and we get paid to make life easier, and that's why people pay to you. If as an artist you can do that, there is so much of work. If you see in India, there is so much of work as an artist to do.
Right.
On the streets you can paint, on for businesses which are like
Right.
a street vendor you can paint. I personally went to a lot of businesses. I told them, your place is looking like this, I can make it better. And with this, they gave me the, like, they had the faith in me, that because I was already doing artwork, and I completed those work and it was looking better, and they were able to attract more people to their place or to their stall or to their restaurant. So the work is always there. The thing is, are you able to work or not, or do you have the capacity to work or not?
Right.
So if you say in terms of earning money from art, it will be always there. You choose something creative, or you choose something, some nice graffiti on the wall, or nice graffiti for a cafe or restaurant, the work is always there. But it depends on how you approach it, if you have the capacity to do it, or if you have that much of expertise to do it or not.
Right, right. Yeah, I agree
Yeah.
on that because I saw you working in your art studio, and I saw people coming to you for lots of stuff, and I know you're doing very well. And I mean, when I see people like you doing very well in non-conventional profession, like still art and tattoo business is very unconventional business because it's not something which we get uh, you know classes in colleges or maybe in school, and still you self learn everything. You self learn making tattoos, you self learn making other stuff, and you're doing well. So yeah, there is a not a question of if there is a need or there's a demand. This question is that how can we basically up the supply.
Mhm.
Right. So let's talk more about the current scenario in India, especially for the artist. In our first episode, when we did together 1 year back, we were talking about tattoos. You know how people who have tattoos are being judged by other people, right?
Mhm.
And we discussed at length that why people think bad about having a tattoo and why people think it is bad to have tattoo themselves, and why they think bad for other people if they have tattoo. Now let's talk about how do people feel of you being a tattoo artist, because you added the word tattoo artist, right? Artist, you added with the tattoo.
Mhm.
But I sense there is still some sort of apprehensions in people's mind when they meet someone who is just a tattoo artist, because it's something which is doesn't look that it looks cool, but it doesn't sound as a serious business. So
Mm.
if a father has to get a groom for her daughter, and if he has two options, one is your engineer, one is your tattoo maker, obviously the engineer will sound more you know
Mhm.
good prospect than marrying her daughter to a tattoo artist, right?
Mhm.
And have you faced this sort of stigma or this sort of criticism around you, not by the father of your girlfriends, but basically in general, people who make tattoo, do you feel that they face this kind of circumstances?
Mhm. So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you make everyone happy?
No.
Who you can make happy in your life,
Very few people.
right?
Yeah.
And those very few people, if you are doing well in your life, if you are earning well in your life, will they bother you to tell you that not to do something?
No, no, definitely not.
And those who will say something, will they matter because they are not adding anything to your journey, or they are not
Right.
adding any positive thing to your journey?
Right.
The same thing happened with me also. Like when I started my tattooing, my artwork, I told you, right, I had the option to uh, go to an office, or I could do my own artwork at that point of time.
Right.
So I got these questions like, bec- I don't like tattoos. Why you are doing tattoos? This is something which we have never done in our family. So I'm not taking name of anyone in my family who told this, but I got this from my own relatives who told me these things. Like tattoo is something which is bad, or it is not something creative. Not creative. It's something which they never experienced.
Yeah.
I told them it's okay. Like if you don't like it, I am not making on top of you on you. Like I'll not tell you to get from me because you don't like it.
Right.
So I told them like it's my journey, and if I have to make, I'll make. So that's how I started. And when I started earning more than what they were earning in their life. Like
Right.
so when I was having all these things for myself, then they were like, no, but tattoo is not hygienic, or tattoo is not this. So when I had the hygiene already, I did all my research already, like what all the things which can go bad if you get a tattoo. So like this, if you are aware of what you are doing, if you know what you are doing, there will be people who will not know that. So it's not because they don't know it. It's just because their level of consciousness has not raised to that point that they might be able to see something positive out of it. So they will comment from their own experience. The same person who is happy might be bad in a different mood or in a different state of mind with the very next day. So if you focus too many times on other people, what other people will say or what other people will talk, if you are doing something like this, then I think you will not be able to, or anyone will not be able to do what they want to do in their life.
Right.
And coming back to the point, when a family here in India, when they say that you have to have an engineer as a person from where you have to marry, again it goes back to the same deep rooted culture of security, that our parents were the decision makers for us, and now they want to control the same thing, that marrying this person or that person will give you a better life, because that's what they have seen, that's what they have experienced.
Right.
So there's nothing bad in it. It's just their experience which they have lived, and
It's
now
limited.
it's not
Yeah.
it's limited. Now it's not useful if you feel, but if you still feel that you want to marry someone, that I know that there are a lot of people who have done, they are married to someone who was rich and who was into engineering and who was into doctor. But again, if you take the same cultural rooted stigma of marrying someone who is well settled, then again you'll not have the fun of like the fun of enjoyment of doing different things, or it is basically someone else is planning for you something which is not, like, which is not correct for the moment.
Right.
But if yeah.
Yeah. What are the options available for someone who is in school and wants to get into art school? First of all, I'm and forgive me if I'm a bit unaware of this kind of stuff, because I never heard of any art school. I have heard about fashion school, but is there any specific art school which teaches art in general? And are you aware of this kind of schools?
See, in terms of commercialization, there's a lot of commercialization for everything. For fashion, it's a commercialization, so that's why you see a lot of fashion-related
Right.
uh, schools. In art, also there are a lot of schools, and in every state there is an art school. But see, the quality or the level of understanding which we have, it's not the same as we have in the technical part. Like still, it has to develop to a point where we can tell that this is something which can generate more income for you. If you see, there are a lot of schools like JJ art schools is there, and then in Chandigarh there is one school, in Himachal there is one art school. There are a lot of places which already have this, but the thing is, it is not so promoted, so well promoted, or it didn't came out of that level, that as engineer, as doctor, artist is also one profession. So if at one point of time you'll see artists making a lot of money, people will start making art schools also a lot. They'll start promoting art schools a lot, and you'll see a lot of art schools coming up
Yeah.
again.
Right.
Yeah. So there are a lot of schools which are there. They are not so much promoted in terms of.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So I wanted to talk to you about this topic. So I know you are a very spiritual guy, not in the traditional form, but in the non-traditional form. You don't believe in any specific God, but you believe in a higher power. And
Hmm.
whenever we meet, we have interesting conversation around it. That why you don't believe in certain God, but you believe in certain higher power. And the common argument which gave is that because we have never seen a god, but we have seen some miracle happening. So, and it's not okay to label God some name, right? And you have basically held on to your point for a long time. And whenever we meet, because I myself, I used to go to a lot of programs by ESCON. So I used to bring those thoughts to our conversation, that that's how they are teaching, that there is a mention of this and this in our scriptures, and you have to believe in scriptures. And your argument that even scriptures were written by some human being, right?
Hmm.
And now, as you go forward, as you because you have yourself done many experiences, you have faced many experiences in terms of spirituality yourself. What is your current take on spirituality and on God? It might be slightly difficult to answer, because I had to ask this, because it's been a while since we discussed this topic.
See, it's a long lived question of the humanity, that is there any God or not? Or is there any form of higher form which is above than us or not? And so if you see a lot of posters, if you see a lot of pictures, like you see someone who has done something, some art form or something which you are seeing, right? Like if I ask you, have you seen Radha, have you seen Krishna, have you seen Shiva? Who has done all these pictures, or who has done all these? Like it was not the god who came and who painted himself and told, see, I'm like this, or who gave the picture and told. It is through the stories, through the learn whatever they have learned in their life. And it is more of and then these artists who were spiritual, who were creative, they created those
Right.
things into one art form, which as a modern Shiva or modern Krishna, or someone who in your life as gods. I don't know, so many gods are there. So if you see all these descriptions, they translated to words, and the words became scriptures, and these scriptures and all these Puranas and everything, they become a stories, and they became something which we know in today's form. And then later, these people who were the artists, who were the creative people, they transform mm, these words and these sentences into images,
Right.
because there's no other way how you can do it. So that's how you know the god as a god. That's how you know a physical being as a physical being. So you see the history of art, it goes back to thousands of years, when you can see on Egyptian pyramids, you can see, so you see all these images on top, like which tells you about the history of that place, or which tells you about the history of that particular race, or that particular set of people who believed in those gods.
Right.
So for me, I always say that uh, there is a higher form, there is someone who is higher than you. Then it is like you are God to a dog, right? They see you as a God, because you can literally kill them if you want to. but you don't kill them. You play with them, or you do nice things with them,
Yeah.
and become a part of family with them. So always, like, there will be someone higher than you, as you are higher to someone.
Right.
So it's a very vague thinking that uh, oh, we are the only one in the universe. Now, there are a lot of scientists who have confirmed that there are so many planets like Earth which are there, or the dimensions like our dimension which we are there, which we are in. So there are so many levels of reality which are already there. Like, if you see visually, like, we can see only a small section of the visual spectrum of light. We don't see the entire infrared. We don't see ultraviolet. We just see a small section of visible light of
It's one
spectrum,
o'clock.
right?
Right.
So when you see all these things, and when you compare the science with spirituality, it is not two different things. It is one thing only which is trying to balance the other thing. Like, if you combine these both, you will get the actual definition of God. That's why I say, like, you yourself is also a god for someone. So same way, there are other higher beings also. There are other higher dimensional beings also, who are above you in terms of spirituality, in terms of a lot of spiritual knowledge. That's how you know the concept of teleportation, the concept of telepathy. These things which we are discovering now as a human being, it was already there, who have done something, who have already done all these things. So the concept of God for me is something which is higher than you, and there will be always something which is higher than them also.
Right.
Like, there is no end to it. That's why scientifically, if you try to tell what is infinity, what is the last number in the digit system, you'll not be able to tell, because there is no end to it. So there is a small infinity, then there's a bigger infinity, then there's a biggest infinity. Same way, the concept of God is also there. Like, if there is a small you, there is someone who is bigger than you, and there will always be someone who's bigger than that particular bigger thing.
Right, right. So those of you who don't know Ajay, you name your studio with the word dimensionless, and one of the most common painting you make is that of aliens. Your studio is filled with paintings and all those art form based on aliens. How you got interested in aliens, and like you just mentioned that God can be just someone, some other living being, but in a higher form, more powerful than us, maybe better than us in way. Do you
Mhm.
somehow correlate aliens being those higher forms, that maybe gods are nothing but, you know, living beings from other worlds or other universes, other planets who might be having more power than us, and that's why you said that God might be some other higher power forms. Are you referring to aliens as our gods?
Okay. Uh, Coming back to the same question, like how we remember things or how we learn things. So we need a central character which we can use for us to teach us. Like, if I am creating an alien as a form, like, I use a lot of aliens in my artwork. So I use this character or this form to teach me something which I don't know yet, or something which I want to learn or memorize fast. So I use this concept of alien, because this is, like, if you ask me, there is no one who has seen aliens as such in our reality for the moment. But you'll see a lot of people who have told that they have sightings. They have seen some people who in the sky, and there are a lot of groups on the Facebook, on Instagram, which you can find UFO sightings or the alien sighting. You can see a lot of, but again, it is something which has not come as like how the pandemic came, the virus came. This virus is an alien. Like, if you see, this is not something which is like us, but it is something which is alien to us, and it is harming us now.
Right.
But if you see, alien word is not just a physical person or physical entity who is just like us, but alien is something which is not common to us, which is not the same DNA, or which is not of the same molecular structure like how we are. Anything for the matter, it is an alien then. Uh, a fish is an alien to you. Dolphin is dolphin is an alien to you. But when you talk in terms of spirituality, we term this alien word as someone who is not from this planet,
Right.
right? So the word of alien is something which is not from here. It is from some different planet or different dimension or a different place. So if you see reality in just one spectrum, like in just one spectrum of visible light of spectrum, then you will miss the point that there are other different vibrations also. There are other different levels of beings also who are vibrating at a different level, who you just can't see because you are just seeing the visible spectrum of light. There are so many things which are already happening, which are already going on in your uh, like in your space, which you can't even see. Like there are so many radio waves going through, there are um, so many microwaves going through, and you don't know what is happening in that. So what happens is, according to me, this is my visualization as an artist, because now when I think of all these things, I try to draw them. I try to draw how it feels like to be an alien, or to see an alien, or to have different alien human lives, different lives than human. So I try to paint them in form of my paintings, like how it will be to have them. And then from this, I create the concept which I want to learn for myself. I relate it with them. Like if you see the yoga, the meditation, the all spiritual practices, they all came to us from Sanatan Dharma. Like from Sanatan Dharma, it was which they have compiled and which they
Right.
have done. And if you go even far back, the Ved Vyasa was someone who wrote all these things, who was just a fisherman's son. But again, when you see all these things, he was a creative person, a creative writer, who compiled all these things, which were in terms of audio messages, which was in terms of like all the teachings which we learned from, which the old people learned from their ancestors. But when you ask them like how it came to you, they said it came from the god, or it came from the high dimensional beings. And when you relate the same story to yourself, like in India, we have been like we have seen a lot of stories of gods and all these people who came to earth, who had their own vimanas. They were in Pushpak Viman or Rukmani Viman. If you compile all these stories from the past, it will help you to understand or visualize that our history is not something which was already which was told like how it is. So that's how the concept of alien, the word dimensionless came into picture, and that's how I named the my art studio as Dimensionless Art Studio. And it's dimensionless itself means in Hindi ayam rahit or nirayam, which doesn't have any starting point or ending point. And in science, in mathematics, a dot or a point is the dimensionless. So, and that is, I guess, the whole mystery of humanity, to go back to this point again, to go back to the singularity again. When you start from a big bang and again you go back to the same
Right.
ending of the big bang.
Have you experienced any other dimension other than what we are as of now living?
You can, like, you can feel it, but you cannot explain it. It's like if you go to a place, if you go to a place which is very happy place, you'll feel it instantly. If you go to a place which is a depressing place or a depressing home, you'll feel it instantly. So you will feel the shift in the vibration in your energies at that point of time. So a very quick example is this: like when you will move out of this conversation, you will go back to your own routine, your own life. We switch realities like one to the nth of 1 billionth of time every second. Like we switch realities a lot of time. As I'm moving my hand, it is shifting the reality. Like so, there is a concept of we shift reality every whatever the smallest thing you can think of a second. We switch every moment. Like we are not literally the same person which we were 1 week before, or 1 month before, or 1 year before. You are not the same Aman which was 1 year before, right? So we shift realities, but we are so much into that reality, we don't understand that we are shifting. If you see your picture, you'll be able to see that, okay, I've shifted. I have changed my appearance, I've changed my way of thinking, I've changed my way of dressing up. So these are the physical things which you can see. Same way in art, what we do is we try to create realities for us by learning different forms of art, by learning different styles of painting, and we want to paint a reality which you want to create for yourself. So if you're feeling bad, if you're feeling depressed, you can paint a reality for yourself, which is a happy reality, or you have a very nice painting which is depicting nice weather or nice sunlight or nice clouds, and then you start behaving in the same way and you shift your reality. So when we talk about physical dimension or a physical reality, yes, there are different dimensions, different realities which you can only talk about. As mathematics, you can only deduce these equations into small equations or bigger equations, but you'll not be able to see that equation how it is. It's same like how we see sacred geometry. We know that everything is sacredly in a geometry in our entire universe. If you see a spiral galaxy, if you see a spiral flower, if you see any anything, everything comes under the sacred geometry. If you research on the sacred geometry, the only thing is when we become aware of it, when we become like when we start focusing our attention towards it, then we start to realize a lot of other things which are happening in our universe than just. And as an artist, what I do is I try to visualize these art forms, I try to visualize these ideas, these thoughts, and I put on to a canvas or I start teaching them to the kids how they can use this knowledge to learn and do some creative things for themselves.
The question was, have you yourself experienced any other dimension? Have you sensed like there might be a different stuff happening which you can sense but you can't see it?
We do it every time. I told you, we shift or we experience realities every time. When we become aware of it, you will be able to see more of it. And like in meditation, one form of meditation is when you try to see these different dimensions through your third eye. When you close your eyes
Right.
and when you see different realities by your inner eye. The third eye is nothing but when you start seeing, when you start observing from your all the senses at one point of time rather than separately seeing them. So when you ask me, have I experienced different realities, different dimensions? Yes, but it is more in terms of my mind, and from that I paint them so that I can show to other people that how I am thinking, the reality which I have seen. Same, you can also do these things. That is what is called creativity, or that is what is called intuition, or that is what is called being different. So as an artist, you become aware of all these things and then you start painting all these things. But if you ask me if I visited physically to a different dimension, then
I say,
no,
have
not
you
yet.
experienced like other dimension? Not say visited, but have you experienced? Okay, there might be something else going on which I can't see, but I can sense it. It is there.
Yes,
You have.
yes.
Okay. Can you talk about it?
Like there's nothing specific because people will say that like most of the time you'll see the ghost stories or you'll
Right.
see, but this will go again off the topic for. So you'll see a lot of ghost stories and all these things. It is nothing but a different dimension which you are not used to of it, and something which is very normal in that dimension. When you see that person or that ghostly image or something paranormal, you'll get scared of it.
Right.
And so it will be again a very different and a long
Right.
topic
Right.
to discuss
We
on
can do that in our maybe next episode. We'll only talk about ghosts and UFOs.
this. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Ajay. It was wonderful talking to you one more time. Although we talk a lot offline, and but this was a much waited episode from you, and I'm waiting for your book. I'm waiting for your first book, which basically will try to explain how we can learn complex topic using graphics, using drawing, and using sketches. And I'm very very happy for your success. I'm really happy for what you are doing, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to be here and talk.
Yeah. Chalo guys,
Yeah,
that's it. Bye bye. Take care.
thank you. Bye bye.